So understand your situation, formulate, but understand that you are not in isolation. So you have an obligation to ensure that you are formulating in accordance with the higher structures, and you have an obligation to ensure that the subordinate structures, as they implement, are also in line with what you have implemented or what you have formulated. At that stage, all you have got is, here is the decision to go or not to go. So the go or no go decision. Here is the actual document called a strategy. But before you implement and understand, that is what is chronic about our church. That's what I've been told as I go around. That we have a chronic condition which is called formulating and never implementing. Is it only true for our union? Oh, thank you. So I understand that is chronic. So one of the things, what are some of the reasons why good strategies are formulated and never implemented? I'll give you one of them. One of them is that it's not always that in the formulation, everyone was consulted. So there's very low ownership, isn't it? Okay, so someone comes up and says, okay, we sat around as your division and we decided that what we think is good for you is this following strategy. So be very careful. Be sure to implement it exactly to the T. Don't change anything. A lot of thinking has gone behind this strategy. Some very, very, very high-level brains have been engaged here. You know, people with a combined 100 years of experience. There are about 6 people with 20 years each. About 120 years experience has gone into this strategy. So please be very faithful. What you need to do, all you need to do is to implement. If you need to change anything, please consult us. And the person who's giving you that has never even come within 100 kilometers of the territory where that strategy is to be implemented. Now, this is a very important thing. Because what you are doing there, it's not a question of whether that strategy is technically feasible or not. It's a question of whether it will meet resistance. Are we together? Technical feasibility is not even the issue here. We started by discounting that complication. That's what I started this presentation on. Saying the technical issue is not really the problem. The issue here is managing resistance to change. And what you need to do is to ensure that even before you deploy that strategy, people are already clamoring for it. Please, when is that strategy coming? We're now dying to implement it. Why? Because all the training and all the awareness campaigns and all the questionnaires to solicit what they would like to see out of a strategy, all complications that they foresee and so on, all that happened long before you started giving them the gadgets. But we usually like to start with the gadgets. Show off. Show off. Mine's bigger than yours. I'm talking about the mobile phone. That's what we're good at, isn't it? So then we get to implementation. And implementation will come unstuck if there's always been resistance. That one is guaranteed. There's no question about that. Then we need to review the strategy because the strategy, by definition, will have certain benchmarks, targets that need to be met. Okay? And so you need to periodically review the strategy. Now, some people, whenever the strategy starts to be implemented, complain that there's an issue here because they are meeting resistance. But let's just look at one philosophy of project management. This is where the project is supposed to reach. This is where the project has started. These are the divisions per quarter or per year. It doesn't matter what you have put this to be. Okay? Project management says to deliver within time and budget that which was supposed to be delivered. So it's what we call the TQC triangle, time, quality, and cost. Okay, to deliver within time and budget the quality that was supposed to be delivered. So you actually go in there and you actually deliver. Now, projects do not meet their targets because the plan was very good. It's not about the strategy. They meet their target because of good implementation, isn't it? The difference between a good strategy and a bad strategy often is that one of them was implemented. That's all. The difference between a good strategy and a bad strategy often is just that one of them was implemented. And the other one is still gathering dust on a chief executive's shelf. So, the normal tendency for any project is to veer off the plan. That's the normal tendency. The reason we have all these meetings, the project planning meetings, the committee meetings, and so on, is to keep bringing this project back It veers off, you bring it back. It tries to go off the other way, you bring it back, and so on. That's how projects eventually. And if you miss 2 or 3 or 4 project control meetings, you notice that usually you are more way off the mark than if you only missed 1, isn't it? We always notice that. So we need to understand that resistance and project management is actually about applying ourselves to the problems, not to be discouraged by the problems. Okay. Now we've done the implementation and then we've done the review. Okay. I'm going to skip that. You're going to get this presentation anyway, so that's not too much of a problem. Change management, a number of definitions. The first one is talking about the systems and behaviors and cultures. And that's why it's important to contextualize. This whole issue of culture, this whole issue of context is crucial, okay? So we're looking at culture, systems, behaviors of an organization. That's the softer side of change management, okay? Second definition is one of my personal favorites. And what does it say? It says that change management is about facilitating changeability rather than change itself. Now, let's look at it this way. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you will be 1 day older than today. In a week's time, you will be 1 week older than today. In a month's time, you will be 1 month older than today. Now, that change, you really can't do much about it, isn't it? That change is already happening. But your ability to change in such a way that your behavior is consistent with your age is called change management. So next time you see all those 60-year-olds behaving like teenagers, it's a change management issue. Those are people who have failed to change as the change has been constant. That's why we say, if you don't change, then the change will. The other one I've already talked about. 2 components of change management. The first one is change management approach. The other one is management of resistance. Isn't it? Left foot, right foot. And you continue progress that way. And don't introduce too many changes before you pause to address the resistance. Some quotations, we'll skip those, you'll get those in your. Okay, that's Niccolo Machiavelli. That's an old quote, we all know about him. But I want to look at his 3 Ds. It's difficult. Introducing a new order of things is difficult, it is doubtful, and it is dangerous. I want us to just focus on those 3. There's nothing more difficult to take in hand, more doubtful in its success, and more dangerous to conduct than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. But let's look at why he says so. He says, because the reformer has enemies in whom? In all those who profit by that order that we're trying to change. Isn't it? And yet, unfortunately, those who support him are just lukewarm. And only lukewarm defenders in all those who would profit by the new order. So those who are already benefiting from the status quo will militate against the proposed change. And those who would benefit would be lukewarm. Why? Because it is our nature not to truly believe in anything until we've actually